Great. Okay. Welcome to Ranger Reviews, a web series we look at episodes of the TV show Power Rangers and then discuss them. Today we're exploring the 14th episode of the show, Power Rangers in Space, as well as the 264th episode overall, titled The Barillian Sting. We begin this episode in the forest on some planet. Carlos, Cassie, and TJ are together walking around. Cassie finds footprints and they assume it's a Piranhatron. They think they might have Zordon, so they track a distress signal. Then we see that Ecliptor is there in the bushes with Quantrons, but then someone new appears out of a portal behind them. Ecliptor refers to him as Darkonda, and he looks cool AF. He also has a sword that grows long. He wanted to see Astronema's newest lackey, and these two hate each other. Ecliptor tells him to stay away from Astronema. Then he returns to watching the three Rangers, and Darkonda makes fun of his ambush. Ecliptor tells the Quantrons to attack, and they move out. The Rangers are fighting off the Quantrons, and Darkonda is still at the side, and he releases a hive, cutting it in half and letting a big bug out. It flies right to Carlos, stinging him. He falls onto the ground immediately in pain, and the others move out to get him back to the ship. Ecliptor blames Darkonda, who is now gone. They leave for the Dark Fortress. Carlos is shirtless in the med bay, and it's spreading through his arm. Andros asks if he feels cold, and he might recognize the bite. He then signals for TJ to follow him, and Carlos watches as they whisper weirdly. They walk away. On the Dark Fortress, Ecliptor is pissed off, heading things out of his way. Astronema asks what happened, and he says something went wrong, and Astronema assumes that it was drastic. Then Darkonda just walks in, and Astronema wants to know who the hell you are. He's a bounty hunter, and he claims that they met once, long ago. Suspicious. She doesn't remember him, and Ecliptor says that he's a traitor. Astronema wants to know why he knows about Darkonda, but Darkonda explains that one Ranger is actually down already. Ecliptor explains a Barillian bug was released during the fight and it stung Carlos. Astronema claims that this was brilliant. Andros and TJ are together again on the planet, which is definitely just some vineyard in California. They meet Darkonda, who says he has what they seek. He then zooms away, so TJ and Andros morph, calling out their galaxy gliders. They hop aboard, heading after him. He's just like zooming around in the forest for fun at this point. Darkonda releases another Barillian bug, and TJ fires at it, but it's not working. Then TJ hops over a branch. Andros tells him to circle around him, so he fires at the bug, killing it. Andros runs over to see that it's a Barillian bug. He's dealt with them once when a huge swarm attacked KO-35, and apparently, after you're stung, you become a Barillian bug, and they'll try to kill them. Andros explains that there was an antidote on KO-35, so they have to go there. They update Ashley and Cassie, who need to restrain Carlos immediately. They go to do so, but we see that Carlos's DNA has changed, and he's already transforming. They get to the medbay to find the new Carlos. Andros and TJ show up on the ship, and they run in to find Ashley and Cassie, and they explain that Carlos is a bug. They then see that he went out via this tiny-ass vent. They have to search the ship. Elgar says they lost track of the megaship and Ecliptor tries to help, but Darkonda says don't worry, he knows where they're going. Explaining that they're actually going to try to get an antidote. And Ecliptor explains there is no antidote. Darkonda explains that it's on KO-35 and Astronema wants him to go there waiting for them. The others get their Astro Blasters together and they explain that they have them on their lowest setting to try to not hurt Carlos. They have to be careful. Then Andros is walking around and he finds a big booger on the wall. Ashley is on the bridge and she gets freaked out by Dekka making some noises. Cassie and TJ are together in the hallway seeing Carlos. They call Ashley and Andros, finding him in the engine room. He then hops over them and Andros tells him not to shoot because they might hit the engines. Then he's tossing them all around and Cassie tries to stop him, but she says that she got stung. However, she actually just has like a new nipple on her neck now. They restrain Cassie immediately and Dekka lets them know that they've arrived at KO-35. Andros and TJ will go down, but Ashley will protect the bridge. She also looks up through a grate. Okay. TJ and Andros are about to leave, but then they hear growling in the distance. They have to get going. They go to the tubes, but Carlos shows up in front of them. They flip over him, getting out. Ashley's on the bridge alone, and it sounds like there's some scraping in the distance. TJ and Andros are at the hospital on KO-35, and they find the locked antidote. And Andros just straight up shoots the thing to open it. Bit much. They get in and they find like 2 vials of the antidote. Then things blow up around them, and it's Darkonda who is walking toward them. TJ takes the meds and runs, while Andros takes on Darkonda, who is now fighting him in a hallway in Japan. He's also handing Andros' ass to himself. He grows his sword out again, attacking Andros, flying out of the building. Andros calls out his battleizer, hitting 02, I think, to use a power punch, hitting Darkonda back. KO-35 looks kinda lived in, guys. Meanwhile, Ashley sees that Cassie is missing from the medbay, and now both Carlos and Cassie are trying to lift up the doors to get in. And Alpha is just there behind Ashley. Dude, where were you before? Ashley tells these two monsters to stop, But TJ is there with the antidote gun, firing both at Carlos and Cassie, who return to their human forms. Except Carlos is like now fully clothed, whatever, they're fine. They head out to help Andros. Speaking of which, they arrive to regroup with him on the ground. Darkana then destroys the last of the Barillian antidote, but then he unleashes another hive, revealing an actual Barillian bug that's monster-sized. Why? Yes. Darkana then uses some sort of ray from his arm to grow the Barillian bug giant. That's a new trick. The Rangers call it the Astro Megazord and they just taunt the damn bug. Like, what are you doing? Just fight. They then just keep dodging everything he does and they punch him down, and Andros yells, "Saber, online!" but the captions say, "Safe, home run!" which is probably about the right amount of sports that Andros would actually know. They use the Saber and kill the Barillian bug. On the Dark Fortress, Ecliptor explains that Darkonda is totally useless to Astronema, but then Darkana walks in, saying that he actually won because he realized that Red is the only true Space Ranger, because if you separate him, the others fall pretty easily. Doesn't make sense when you had him just be saved by his whole team, but alright. Andros is now taking time to be emo on the top of a building, looking at his locket, and remembering when his sister Corone was kidnapped. Ashley then shows up, walking over to him as he tries to look sad. She asks what he's thinking about, and he explains that the last time he saw his sister, it was in that park over there. He feels like he's super close to finding her, and Ashley hopes he's right. They walk away. The end. This episode's actually pretty good and definitely a step up from the last few episodes. I mean, sure, it made Carlos just disappear for most of the episode, but let's be real. What has Carlos even done since they've become the Space Rangers? I like this introduction to Darkonda because he's not just messing around, and I can appreciate that. Also, Ecliptor hates him, and it makes the bad guys so much more interesting when there's an actual relationship between these characters, good or bad. Next time, TJ has an identity crisis. Probably realizes he's 19 with no high school diploma, no college prospects, and no viable career opportunities. Until then, may the power protect you.